Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMayo. I'm your host. I'm here with my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, the very handsome Bill Canham. What's up, Bill?
A lot of stuff going on, man. We got so many things to talk about. I mean, we could talk forever about this police stuff, but we got a live guest tonight.
We're very excited to have him. He's a NYPD Lieutenant. He's also an attorney. He works in the legal bureau. He's also the president of Brotherhood of the Fallen. We welcome tonight Lieutenant Robert Corbett. What's up? How are you, buddy?
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here. Love the show myself, so consider it an honor.
Thanks, Rob.
Did I do okay with your last name? How do you say it? Is it Corbett?
That's it. No, that's, I get that now and then, but Corbett's fine.
Corbett. Yeah, right.
And then Rob, go ahead, Mark.
Are you still on the job?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. How much time you got on?
I'm in my 24th. It'll be 25 next April.
All right, I got to tell Bill. Hey, Bill, take it easy on him, all right?
You want to make it to 25, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, big difference in your pension, man.
You get that extra. Do you still get the extra $1,000 to the 60th? The extra $1,000 a month?
Extra the 60th, and I think 25 is when your longevity goes over.
Yeah, that's right. See, Mark didn't pay attention to any of that stuff. He was 20. He was 20 and out.
No. Well, I was going to be a big star. I wasn't leaving to do nothing, sit at home. I was going to be this famous comedian. I was going to have a great podcast, and I was going to be on TV every once in a while, and I'm doing it. So there you go. So what year did you come on?
97, April 97. I started.
All right.
I was in a cadet program before that for a short time, but April 97.
Remember they always used to say that these are going to be your bosses.
Yeah.
And we look at most of those cadets and go, no, they're not.
Well, I drove to the academy with one of the guys I drove to the academy with. He was a cadet. He didn't spend much time on the job either. Like, he was on the job for, I don't know, 6-8 months, and then he went right to Suffolk. So there you go. Bill, I guess he did better than becoming a boss. He just went he became a captain.
He went right to the big dollars, the big money.
Yep.
So, Rob, you grew up in Manhattan, right? You want to tell us a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, I grew up in Manhattan. I was a third-generation Manhattan kid. I lived in Manhattan for my first 33 years. Then I went to Long Island City for like 7 or 8 years. Now I'm out in Suffolk County for the last 7 or so years.
Wow. So you must love traffic, right?
Love traffic.
That Long Island traffic is like, I went to meet my friends a couple of weeks ago for dinner in Merrick, and I left at 2:30. I said, I'll kill, dinner was 7 o'clock. I said, I'll kill a few hours at Jones Beach.
Yeah.
Took me 2.5 hours to drive to Jones Beach which should take like an hour and 10 minutes. There's always some kind of accident. There's some kind of emergency. It's unbelievable.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you something right now, though. God bless traffic, because it works for us. We have a podcast. That's when I listen. You know what I'm saying? That's when I listen to my podcast. Sometimes I actually look forward to it. If I'm driving to a gig and I know I'm going to be in the car for a while, I start picking out which ones I'm going to listen to, So that's what we need. We need a lot of traffic.
Yeah. You get all the Long Island cops, you'll be good to go.
That's true.
And we just had the police commissioner Patrick Ryder on.
Yeah,
great guest, great guy, former NYPD. So hopefully we'll pick up some Nassau County guys becoming police off the cuff fans.
I'm sure you will.
It's going to be great. So Rob, one thing we have this iconic photo that we have to ask you about, and all the mothers out there that have sons that are cops, they gotta cry every time they see this photo. And you want to tell us about that?
Sure. It was May 29th, 2020. It was sort of the first major night of last summer's riots. It was in Brooklyn, right near the 8-8. I had been at the Barclays Center for the start of the night for the protest there. And then it was breaking up and moving all over Brooklyn. And we heard them calling 13s from the 8-8. They were trying to take the 8-8 station house. So it took us a minute or two to get there with traffic. Cars weren't moving. We parked our car and we're going to run the rest of the way in. But we saw a marked car moving. We jumped in. We got there. And the cops had pushed the crowd back. I forget what street, DeKalb maybe, and something. And we had kind of stopped at an intersection where the cops were all lined up on one side of the street and the protesters / rioters were lined up on the other side of the street. And they were chanting, but then they started throwing like water bottles. And, the cops were swatting them out of the air and stuff like that. Then they threw a can of paint. Then they started throwing glass bottles. And when they started throwing glass bottles, the cops started to move in to make arrests and things like that. And the second we stepped off to move in and take arrests, the other side of the line kind of unleashed with whatever they had. And I just got hit right in the face with a brick that came from across the street. I saw it at the last minute. I couldn't do anything. It was moving really fast. And it was kind of hurtling. It wasn't like a neat spiral or anything. It was kind of hurtling, upside down at me. So it caught me in the face. I actually continued running forward for like a half a block. I mean, I knew I was hurt. I knew I was bleeding, but adrenaline and everything else and trying to get the job done. And I would say I got maybe more like a quarter of a block, and I kind of started feeling for a tooth, and it was dangly, and blood was all over my shirt. And I kind of realized that this wasn't going to stop on its own, and I couldn't really keep going. So I turned around and walked back to the 88. They had an ambulance there already anyway and stuff. And I ended up in the hospital. I ended up with like 9 stitches.
Wow.
And I'm actually still going to the dentist next Monday. I'm finally supposed to have the implant put in. I've got some temporary stuff up here now. So a year later, it's still, in the works.
Hey, I know I've had implants. I know how much they cost. You're talking like $6,000-7,000 a tooth. And, the LBA insurance sure as hell isn't paying that.
Well, thankfully it's line of duty, so the city's covering it. And
good.
In what might be the brighter side of things, there's still good people out there. A dentist who I won't name, with a very successful dental practice in Manhattan, kind of came forward through a friend and said, "Hey, I'll take care of that." You know what I mean? And because they saw it in the newspaper. So I'm going to like a top-notch guy and taking whatever the department's giving them for line of duty injuries and stuff like that. So, it's much appreciated.
That's great, man.
That's smart. That's smart that you didn't mention their name. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned the word adrenaline. I worked in the task force. We were basically just cops waiting for something to happen. We used to move crowds around. Bill put up those photos. A lot of times it gets like that, and your adrenaline is pumping. I remember that. So you're out there, your adrenaline is pumping, but also the rioters, their adrenaline is pumping. And I think that's what's intoxicating for them. And that's why they keep showing up, because they get close to danger. Sometimes they get involved in it, like the throwing of the bricks or the throwing of the water bottles. You're kind of in a crowd. Nobody could tell who's doing what.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling like that. That's what is the catapult for people. They go for the first time and they realize, wow, look, I'm part of something. It doesn't even matter what it is. It's just most people don't get that adrenaline. They don't get that high.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah, and they keep showing up for right now. They're protesting what's going on in Israel and in the Palestine over there. And meanwhile, we're in America. And it's like crazy over here.
The city has always been a protest-heavy place. It's New York City, right? It's the crossroads of the world.
It's the mecca for protesters.
And we've always, in my opinion, policed them with their First Amendment rights in mind. We've always been fair, in my opinion. Protests have been here for decades. The difference now is very obvious, though. We're the target now, and even in anti-police protests in the past, we might get cursed at and yelled at and screamed at and nasty things like that. But last summer was really the first time in a long time where we were the actual target. That first night, most of us didn't have our helmets handy, and things like that, because it really never happened before. I mean, I have almost 25 now. And from the RNC to, Occupy Wall Street and all these other things, we've all been to protest, but it's never been this violent toward us.
Rob, I just wanted to mention something. You guys were also told by the mayor that he wanted a soft touch. Therefore, all the training and all the techniques and all the policing that we know how to do basically was put on the back burner. Because you notice, even for me, an outsider retired sergeant, there was no mounted there ever. They didn't use aviation. I know the department has drones. I didn't see any drones because they really could have used drones, because the protesters split up into different areas to cause havoc in different places. That's also a reason for aviation. So when you talk about a soft touch, not only was it a soft touch, but he was not using the resources that the NYPD has become and as known as the #1 police department in the whole world because of the way we respond to things like this.
Yeah, I don't, obviously being careful about what we discuss, and, I'm still active and all that, but the choppers were up several times or throughout a lot of it. I don't know how many were up at any given time, but they were up, and the drones, I'm not sure when we used them or not. We do have them. But to be fair, yeah, I never saw mounted. I don't know what I think we just needed more cops early in that, I think the execs at the time probably best they could with the hand they were given. Maybe I'm wrong. I wasn't part of the decision-making process, but I think it was a tough situation given the political climate. And I think we just needed more cops. We were out at almost every turn. We were outnumbered. And in my experience, just my own personal view and experience, anytime we're outnumbered, those who are protesting against us have a lot more courage.
Yes. Crowd mentality, that's for sure.
Hey, let me ask you a question, though. Like, so you're an attorney, right? And you're working in the legal bureau. Why the hell are you outside? Why are you outside? It's just that the one time you go out a year, you have bad luck. Is that what it is? I would imagine.
I certainly have bad luck, but besides that,
I would imagine that if I made it to the legal bureau, that I'm going to see very little street. I'm going to be in my books and working on my little cases. And now this kind of stuff pops off. So let's say you get the daytime detail, because nothing's going to happen. That's what I imagine. But like, I don't imagine like them putting me in harm's way. Like, wait a minute, I got a case I'm working on right now. I gotta get back to the office. What does Bill say? Can we do a 1013 admin central?
So the department has a strong interest in making sure we police protests the right way and sort of balance, the needs of the citizens of the city and, the protesters' First Amendment rights and things like that. So at nearly every protest in the city, the legal bureau sends attorneys. That's when we go out. So our criminal section does an amazing job. They send out attorneys to nearly every protest. I don't normally work in our criminal section. I'm in a different part of legal, but they need help at major events like this. So that's when we go out. We're there to give legal advice to the commanders on the scene.
Have you ever been at a protest and you're watching it and, and then you go like this, ooh, that's not going to be good. Guys.
Plenty of times lately. Yeah.
Stop, guys.
Yeah. Well, so, last summer, that incident with the brick was the first night. So then I missed like the next 5 weeks of all the real rioting and mayhem. So I got taken out of the play on the first night. But that's what we're out there for. So we get in the mix.
I wanted to ask also, I noticed by watching the protest, people there's some people who deny the fact that Antifa exists. That even the president of the United States said, oh, they're just an idea. But ideas don't leave pallets of bricks. Ideas don't meet in the morning and get on buses together. Ideas don't have a organized response to what were riots. So and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but why wasn't there a larger investigative component to this that found out who the leaders are and let's cut the heads off the leaders right away?
I don't know why there isn't a bigger investigation. And obviously, as you know, there's a million different investigating bodies that could be interested, right? From us to the feds to, whoever. But I think you need the political will to go after them, to look for that. And I think maybe one of the main differences now is that the Antifa groups and similar groups, they have learned, from the past, things like, RICO cases and things like that. They have learned not to publish who's in charge. And in fact, they say no one's in charge. And they keep things anonymous and they do things like that. So we can't come after them. So I'm not saying it's impossible at all, but it would probably be difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I was sort of amazed by that because when I heard that there were pallets of bricks delivered, I was like, how come they didn't see the truck that dropped them off? How come they didn't follow up the paper trail to that?
Yeah.
Like
I didn't see any pallets or anything like that. I heard it the same as everyone else did. I don't know what of it was true and what wasn't. What we know, but what we are seeing very often is these folks showing up to protests with backpacks that have bolt cutters, rocks, brick fragments, spray paint, and stuff like that. It's becoming like a regular tactic.
And why aren't we removing that from them right at the onset of the demonstration?
Well, it's the same as anything else. Let's make a scenario. We have 20 people on the corner, gathering to protest. We can't just stop and frisk them because they might have, right? It's the same rules apply, to any other criminal scenario. So we can't just start going through their backpacks to see what they have. If we had, good information about specific people from credible sources, or if we had undercovers involved, maybe we could. But most of our tools that we can use have been taken away from us, right? One of the main laws we used to prevent violent black bloc tactics. Are you guys familiar with black bloc protesting tactics? Have you heard that term before?
I've heard it. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
It's kind of a tactic in protesting where everyone wears all black. They all look the same, including, say, black balaclavas, black backpacks, so that if they throw things at the police, fight with the police, break windows, even if it's on video, they all look alike. And you can't, pick them out in a lineup or a photo array or anything else. And we used to, at least if we wanted to, as a tool, be able to use the loitering, which you probably don't remember, but it said that if basically you had 3 or more persons in public that were disguised, other than on Halloween or at an event with a permit, or whatever, you could arrest them for the violation of loitering. Right. So when we would have these folks wearing masks so they could, protect their identity at a protest or riot, we could move in quickly if we wanted to. If we had an intel that said this is going to be violent and these people are going to look to hurt cops, we could have used that to go in early and quell the potential violence. But they, took that law away from us. So we're slowly losing every tool we have.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Oh, man. It's funny because, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the psychological test to get on the job. And if one of the questions should be, if you want to get on this job, you should just fail the test, the psychological. And I did a show Saturday night. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but Liam, there's a listener, Liam. He was at the show in Headline Governor's Comedy Club, and he's coming on the job in a couple of months. So that's pretty interesting that there's still people coming on the job, man. God bless these guys, man. And I told him, I said, I'm an optimist, man. I think this thing is going to be a year from now is going to be a whole lot better. I think we're going into a situation right now. I'm an optimist. Like I said, everybody who's running for mayor is going to have to run on, get tough on crime, and they're going to have to prove it because this summer is going to suck. This summer is going to be horrible. It's already flaring up right now with the shootings.
Well, you look at there's 9 people there that are running for the Democratic nomination, and only 2 of them gave a shit about crime in the debate. The rest of them are defunders. But
that, like I said, that attitude is going to change because if you want to win, if you're going to want to win the mayoralship of New York City, you're going to have to change your attitude. Wang figured it out already. Eric Adams figured it out already. And already on the Republican side, we already know we got Curtis Sliwa and Pepitone, retired NYPD. He's been on the show before too. So who else is running as a Republican? I'm trying to think, but there's one more. There's a big name. Oh, the Dominican guy, Mateo. He wants to arm. Who does he want to arm?
Fernando Mateo, yeah.
I think he wants to. He put on his platform right now that he wants to make it easier for civilians to get carrier's license permits.
Mark, that's never going to happen.
I know
retired cops have a hard time getting their damn gun permit now, which is a disgrace.
That could be coming with no help from say the city or whatever. But the Supreme Court is taking up a case now that does revolve around New York and its restrictive carry license. So I think it's in the fall. The Supreme Court's going to hear a case. I think it's called New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Corbett or something like that. And the Supreme Court is supposed to answer the question, does New York's permitting scheme violate the Second Amendment? And by permitting scheme, they mean for carry permits. And I did read some of the briefs that were submitted in the case. It was very interesting. And basically, if you're interested, I could find it and send it to you. But one of the briefs really does a great job of breaking down the sort of three categories, right, of the various states in the U.S. The first category is shall issue states, they call it. So in those states, if you apply for a carry permit, as long as you pass the background check, they shall issue you the carry permit. You don't have to show a reason. And then you have the category where we're calling them constitutional carry states now, where you don't even need a carry permit. You can buy a gun and you can carry it provided you're a certain age. And then you have states like New York, which they sometimes refer to as may issue, or you require cause. Show us why you want to carry. So this case should decide whether the show us cause requirement is constitutional or not. And New York might not have a choice after that. We'll have to see what happens.
Well, that's good, man. That's incredible information. I hope that obviously that we become a state that loosens up these gun restrictions. Look at what I mentioned about Fernando Mateo running on, and that's one of his the new things he added to his platform: make it easier for law-abiding citizens to be able to carry their weapons.
672E Galaxy, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. That's Liam's dad, and Mark shouted out to Liam. We should shout out to everyone if they're going to throw us $20, But thank you so much. That's very much appreciated. New York, when you think about what the criteria are to get a carry permit, it's how much money you deposit in the bank. That's so ridiculous when you think of it. That's a violation to everyone. How about poor people? That if you don't have a business, you don't show receipts that I deposit $10,000 a month in the bank. I'm just using that as an arbitrary number. That's the criteria. And I just like to say one other thing while I'm ranting, because I love to rant, is I hear from cops that live in New York City and that depend on the New York City to get their gun permit. They're like, give them a really hard time. Like 3 or 4 months go by, they have no permit. That's not acceptable. I live in Westchester and they take care of it right away. And I'm sure Nassau County does. I'm sure Suffolk County does. New York City screws these guys. It's ridiculous. It really is. I know you don't want to comment on it. I'm ranting.
It's all right.
Pistol license section. Remember Al Goldstein used to say, pistol license section, fuck you. I'm sorry for all our fans that don't like that language, but I had to shout out to Al Goldstein,
That whole thing with the rabbis getting their permits and stuff like that didn't help at all. That just played right into what they was trying to do anyway with the city, which was reel in these permits. And then they showed you some corruption, and I lost a friend because of it. Rachel Pranzo, thank you so much for your $5 super sticker. Oh, you mentioned Galaxy. Did I miss anybody? Oh, Ryan Investigative Group. Thank you for
Bill Ryan. Yes.
Yeah, man. It's tough, man. They make it very, very tough here, and yet we have shootings. The shootings that are going up here, and the summer hasn't even started, and that's why I'm telling you, come time to run for mayor, they're all going to be on the same thing. I can fight this crime. We can bring it back down. We can grab control of it. They're all going to change a different tune because this summer's going to be hot, man.
Can you see the guy underneath Scott Stringer? On this picture, you're seeing all the 9 people that are running for the Democratic nomination. Yeah. That guy, I don't even know his name. No one will know his name because he's that unimportant. He wants to take $3 billion of the police department's budget and give it to social service programs. All the way on the left, she's another one. The one under the one's Maya Wiley, I think. She's another social service person. The one under her, they should all just take a walk because they don't have any chance whatsoever because they don't care about public safety, period. And their ideas are just ridiculous.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, if you want to win, because are you in the race to try to actually become mayor, or are you trying to make a point? Because at this, for the residents that live here in New York City, they're not going to want to see this crime anymore. We just had a shooting in Times Square. You can't have that. That's the crossroads of the world right there. We depend on tourism. Then whoever's coming in, that has to be their platform. That could never happen again. That we're gonna get these guns off the street. And once you talk about getting guns off the street, you talk about cops that are going to be in plain clothes. We're going right back to where we were, trying to wrap our arms around this crime and contain it. So there's nobody's going to win unless if you live in New York City, I still do. Why would you vote for anybody with these stupid ideas?
Because they have a radical leftist base that they think that is going to vote for them. Look, 10% of the people voted in de Blasio mayor twice.
Well, I know, but nobody was voting at that time either. It always comes a time like this, like when Dinkins was mayor, and then he was running for re-election, and the city was, right the way it is going to be. Well, it's still not the way it was when Dinkins, but it could be. That's when Giuliani came in, and that's when everybody came out to vote. Nobody was voting for this guy. Nobody even gave a shit who was mayor. It didn't really matter. We didn't think it mattered because we had so many good years. We had 8 years of Giuliani, 12 years of Bloomberg. So
and Ray Kelly was the commissioner. For
what could they do? How could they fuck it up? How could they fuck it up? Look at what they did, man. Look what they did. Imagine being these guys. Imagine being Bloomberg right now.
Yeah, well, but you know something? Bloomberg was a good mayor fiscally, and he was supportive of the NYPD. But the blunder he did at the end of his term, we're still feeling the reverberations from, and that's the overutilization of stop, question, and frisk. And you see, I said stop, question, and frisk because the press and the politicians, it's not called stop and frisk. You don't own it. The police department owns it. And the legal bureau wrote it up, and it's called stop, question, and frisk. So whenever I hear someone say stop and frisk, I know they're anti-police.
Yeah, and if you want to be hyper technical, you can say stop, question, and maybe frisk.
Right, and possibly frisk, absolutely. And if you said, Billy, give me $1, and I said, hey, here's 66 cents, you'd say, where's the other 34 cents? Oh, it's stop and frisk. We threw it out. You wouldn't do that with money.
Former guest Marianne McGinnis, thank you for the $4.99 super chat.
Duty Ron said this is a family show, so watch the cursing, and I think he's absolutely right. We got to be careful with that. Princess Mitch, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I swear I'll never curse again. People giving us money like that, thank you so much. I think it's time for us to go to a commercial, Mark. So go do your stuff.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Silk City Hot Sauce is one of our sponsors. They have great. They make a great hot sauce. It's made with all locally grown peppers. There's a lot of different flavors, from mild to wild. I use it all the time now on my food. It's all the best ingredients. It's the best hot sauce that I've ever had. If you go to silkcityhotsauce.com and you put in OTC for off the cuff. You'll get a 15% discount. Trust me when I tell you, I wouldn't steer you wrong.
Folks, if you've had it with New York City, all the crime and all this craziness, and you want to move down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Carol Waters, a realtor, she sells for Carol Waters, sells Myrtle Beach at gmail.com. She's part of the Beach Realty Group. She was a 20-year bartender at Fitzpatrick's Hotel in Manhattan. And her husband, Rob Mayen, was an NYPD rollover to the fire department. They're both down there selling real estate. They're two of the best. They're big supporters of Police Off the Cuff. Please give them your support. And talk about a big supporter of Police Off the Cuff, and that's Joe Murray, attorney extraordinaire. And he's a big, big supporter. He's a former member of the service, police officer. He's got a website, joe@murray-law.com. And I hear he's got a mean left hook. And I don't want to tell you who he hit it with, but he was on a PBA boxing team for years. And that's Joe Murray, a big supporter of Police Off the Cuff. And lastly, tomorrow night, it's finally here. Police Off the Cuff night at Bordeaux on 350 West 46th Street at 7 p.m. Make a reservation. I hear that Joe Lisi's getting lots of reservations, so you should probably call up. Joe Lisi's a retired captain, probably the most successful actor in the history of the NYPD, and he's a fine restaurateur too. But Joe Lisi, and we'll be there. We'll be shaking hands, kissing babies. As long as the babies are between the ages of 25 and 35, we'll be kissing them, and we'll be talking to you guys, taking pictures with you. It's going to be a fun night.
Hey, Peter Pranzo says might wind up with Adams. At least he knows the truth. Whether he flips or not, who knows?
Yeah, well, that looks like who's probably going to be the nominee at this point.
Yeah, well, right now, but things change, man. You
No,
know,
the nomination is in about 5 weeks.
Oh, no, okay, but I'm talking about the nomination, but that's the Democratic nomination.
Yeah, no, Republican's not beating the Democrat.
We don't know if it's Curtis Lee. Well, we don't know.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith.
Even Mateo, I'm telling you. You know how many Dominicans in Washington Heights will vote for him?
he's gonna get delivery cab drivers in mass, right? That guy never met a camera he didn't like either, Fernando Mateo.
Good, though. Hey, listen, if there's 8 million people, 6 million live in Washington Heights.
You know, Rob, we wanted to, another thing, since you are an attorney, we should ask you some legal things regarding the department. Where are we at as far as the department suing the city council in regards to the diaphragm law?
I haven't heard any talk about it. It wouldn't be the department's place to bring that suit. Theoretically, it would be the union's place. And didn't they?
I know. Yeah, I think the PBA and the SBA, they got lawsuits. Right. They're going to challenge it. But I thought that this could come, even the department, being that it's such an outlandish ruling by people that know nothing about policing. And then I heard that even the coward de Blasio didn't even have to sign it. He just let it linger for like 5 or 6 weeks, and then it automatically became law. So his greasy fingers aren't on it.
I didn't pay attention to the process itself. We did deal with, analyzing it and analyzing all the other new laws. We've been really busy analyzing changes in the law and in the criminal justice system over the last year or two. So we've had our hands full with it.
And then the other one is, the big one is qualified immunity. Would you like to speak on that?
Sure. So there's been a lot of confusion over New York City's qualified immunity bill. And we've put out a few things. The unions have put out a few things. But I guess why don't we start with what is qualified immunity? A lot of people don't really know. Qualified immunity is an affirmative defense that can aid cops in lawsuits involving civil rights violations in federal. Qualified immunity was never a defense before in state court. It's a federal court affirmative defense. It shields cops from liability for their actions if they didn't violate clearly established, or it was objectively reasonable for the cop to believe that he didn't violate the law at the time of his action. So that's always been a defense, and it still is. The New York City Council does not have the power to take away qualified immunity as it exists as a federal affirmative defense. What they did was they created a new city law, a local law, that allows people to sue us in state court for unreasonable search and seizure or excessive force. But keep in mind, you already could sue us for those things in both federal and state court anyway. So they created new rights of action for those things and then said, oh, and you can't use qualified immunity as a defense. But you couldn't use qualified immunity as a defense in state court to begin with. So I'm not suggesting it's good. I'm just suggesting that some of the headlines are a little bit over the top. And I get it. But again, it's not good, but it's not necessarily the end of the world either, because here's the thing that our cops have to remember, and that is that under 50K of the general municipal law, they will be represented and indemnified, provided they were, acting within the scope of their employment, didn't violate any major rules or policies or laws. So why don't we take an example? You're a cop, you make an arrest, and you are sued for excessive force and false arrest. There was no investigation. You weren't found to have violated any internal rules or anything like that. So you get sued. Now you fill out a request for legal assistance. You send it into the legal bureau. It goes over to court counsel. They do a check. You haven't violated any rules. So they're now representing you, right? They're going to be your attorneys. And as it goes through discovery, this case a little bit, everything looks good for you. You did everything you were supposed to do. And maybe they file a motion, to dismiss or for summary judgment at some point based on qualified immunity. And let's say you even lose that. You are not granted qualified immunity. So it goes to trial or it's settled. You are still covered. You are being represented and indemnified because as long as you are acting within the scope of your employment and didn't violate any rules, you're covered. So the qualified immunity, it's a nice defense. It doesn't work that often in the Second Circuit anyway. It works sometimes, but we're such a litigious place, New York, and we have so many cops and we make so many arrests that there aren't that many unique circumstances. So I'll give you an example of a case where there were unique circumstances, and we want a qualified immunity on qualified immunity as a defense. Cops put some cuffs on an individual. And the cuffs were maybe too tight. But the prisoner didn't say anything. The prisoner didn't say, hey, my hands hurt. Hey, these cuffs are too tight. The prisoner simply moved around in the back of the RMP a little bit and maybe kind of grunted, but didn't say a word. The question became, was that enough, moving around, maybe looking uncomfortable and making a noise? Was that enough to put the cops on notice that the cuffs were too tight? And of course, no such case had ever been decided. So there was no clearly established law that said, yes, that's excessive force in the sense that the handcuffs are too tight and the cop should have known or whatever. So we won a qualified immunity defense there. But even if we didn't, provided those cops hadn't violated any other major rules, right, they would have been indemnified and they would not have been personally liable. So they would not have had to pay any money of their own and things like that. So
yeah, but there's been other jurisdictions where we've seen the cops put through hell. For example, Baltimore, was it the Freddie Gray case where he was in the back and they locked all those cops up and they all beat it. I mean,
yeah. Well, don't forget, qualified immunity is a defense in federal court for civil rights violations, which is civil lawsuits. So criminal cases and cops being locked up is a whole nother world.
Right. Well, even you look at the Brown. The case in they wanted, the feds went there to lock that cop up, and when every investigation they did, they found he was right, and the physical evidence said he was right, but they went there with they sent the United States Attorney General there to get him.
Yeah. Well, if you monitor it, they're putting out in the news, right, very quietly here and there, that cops are being reinstated, right? Did you see the
Yeah.
I think it was the one in Wendy's,
yes.
in the Wendy's parking lot. That cop was reinstated now. Yeah. So these political quick to judgment, firings and things like that, maybe it's politically expedient for those particular politicians, but it doesn't hold when tested. So I think there's two, that one and something else, where the cops got reinstated quietly recently, and there wasn't much news media on it.
Right. Well, even the no-knock warrants now, from what I understand, and you can correct me, I understand we may be losing those.
Yeah, I think they want to. I don't remember reading the bill, but I remember it being talked about, that they wanted to severely restrict the use of no-knock warrants, like that we might have special burdens to get to be able to get one or something like that, but I didn't read it.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about legalization of drugs, at some point you're not even going to need a no-knock warrant, because most of them are for, drug houses, drugstore. You're going to be
but you're going to need it for the protection of the cops. That's the whole point of it. Because with drugs come guns.
The way
that's why you need to knock
the door down. Going right now with legalizing the drugs, at some point you're not even going to need a no-knock warrant. They just legalized marijuana in New York State. Oregon is free. You can do whatever what would you need a no-knock warrant for if all drugs are legal?
For guns. That's why, for guns. The no-knock warrant is to protect cops, not to protect the bad guy. It's to, look, what if there's 10 pit bulls in there? You want to, I guess maybe then you do want to knock to find out if they're there.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying it's stupid. You're getting rid of a tool. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to legalize drugs, then you're not going to be able to do these no-knock warrants. You're never going to get the guns. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to be allowed to surprise them. What are you going to do? Say, hey, what's up? How are you? Do you guys mind if we come in and look around a little bit?
Well, look, it does get that ridiculous. In Chicago, they want the cops to ask permission to chase somebody. I mean, how ridiculous is that? That's got to be, in the stupidity meter, that's got to be like 99.5,
I know a lot of fat cops that would love that option. But ask them. No, call up. Ask them if I have to chase them. I'm all the way here.
Yeah. It's like whenever you would get a homicide and the building didn't have an elevator, you knew it was always on the 12th floor. You had to climb 12 flights of stairs. Oh, where's the case? It's on the 12th floor. So
6 stories.
There's no elevator? No.
That's what we used to do when we were in warrants and the boss wanted to come out with us. Every once in a while, the boss would be like, hey, I'm going to come out with you guys tomorrow. So that we dig up all our, walk-ups, 6-8 story walk-ups in Manhattan. I had a warrant there. So this way we get him in the van. We go up two apartments where we got to walk up to the 6th floor. By the 3rd one, he's like, hey, you know what? I'm good. Drop me off at the base.
Yeah, I think I'll stay in the office from now on. That's true. Well, what are some of the big legal issues now facing the department, other than what we just spoke about? The diaphragm law. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention. How about which also got released with seemingly no pushback or no fight? I'm sure the unions probably did fight it, but publicizing the officer's disciplinary record, both online and people can indirectly, find out where a cop lives even. Is there pushback towards that?
There was when they were talking about repealing that section of the law. The department opposed it. Department objected, but to no avail. The state seems set, and the city seems set in their desires to sort of just be, everything against the police or whatever. So, it passed anyway. They repealed the law that protected us in that regard, and now, I suspect there'll be some litigation about what we are and aren't releasing, because not everything's out there. So we'll see which way it goes.
I mean, it's so crazy because how would you do that to a judge? Would you do that to an ADA? Would you do that to the city council? Would you do that to politicians? Let's have all of their disciplinary records. Look, online, doctors and dentists, it can destroy their practice because you could get, they could be a great dentist or a great doctor, and you can get one patient who is just looking to cause problems, and but it's all right to do to cops.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for sure. We've always been one of the most singled out professions, right? By percentage. In New York alone, what do we do? Have 6 million interactions, the NYPD, with people every year. I'm probably more than that, right? And the percentage of things going wrong is minuscule in comparison to the number of interactions we have with people in the city. but that's the flavor. So
yeah, it's sort of scary because all the tools that you need to do your job are being taken away, and it seems like they're loading it on to the advantage of the perpetrator, and the cop has to be 1,000% correct, or they're looking to hang the cop.
Yeah. The other major things are the bail reform, the discovery reform, and the DAT reform. Right, those are the big things that seem to be hurting us lately.
Yeah, that bail reform, man. I read a story the other day about some guy who got out. He got out 3 times in one day, and committed 4 different crimes. So he got caught 4 times. But the 4th time he got caught, he was already in the next day. But it's just so stupid. I mean, if somebody's hell bent on, or they're in that state of mind where, they're just doing crazy things. Some people are mentally ill. Taking a break, getting them off the street for a little while, cooling them off. That's what it used to be called. Put them on ice. Let them chill. Get this anger out of you for a minute. A lot of that. Yeah. Not only does it help them, but it also helps the neighborhood. When you get that person that he's walking down the street every day, no shirt on, in the middle of the summer, screaming crazy shit. Everybody's intimidated by that guy. You know what I'm saying? If he gets off the street for 2-3 days at a time, every month, everybody gets a chance to relax. They get to breathe a little easier. Now you put 4 or 5 of these people in the same neighborhood. Look at that guy in Times Square that did the shooting. That guy's in there every single night in Times Square. They're probably selling the handbags, the knockoffs. Mm-hmm. Walking around with a gun. He's talking to cops all night, bullshitting with him, and he's got a fucking gun on him. The only reason why we found out was because he tried to kill his brother. So that just goes to show you what kind of mental state they're in. It's crazy, man.
Well, the other thing about that, he could have been taken off the street back in the day through quality of life enforcement. But since we're not doing that anymore, he's going to be out there plying his trade, which is, a low level violation. But we used to enforce that. And now they're not,
And because we used to enforce it, they knew not to carry guns.
Right.
Yeah.
Why right. Keep shootings down for so long.
Rob, I told you I tried to find out. I called DCPI and I actually called Transit District 1. I wanted to find out if the guys who did the robberies and the slashing on the subway, if they paid their fare. And no one seemed to know the answer to that. All they knew was that they got on the subway at 51st and Lexington. But they couldn't tell me if they used their Metro card or if they jumped the turnstile. No one seemed to know that. Because I was interested in that because I'm, an old broken windows policing type guy that, if they didn't take that away from us, maybe these guys would have been collared for jumping the turnstile. Because most bad guys, as you know, they're not going to pay their fare. They got a gun on them. They're not going to pay their fare.
That makes so much sense. What you're saying makes so much sense right now. If no criminal is going to wind up paying, he's not going to pay to get into the train station to go rob people. So you might head him off at the pass if you just did your freaking job.
Yeah.
Or were allowed to do your job.
In fact, this is the one of them who, and you folks out there see this guy. He's still at large, this guy. And he was one of the, I think, there could have been they arrested 3 or maybe 4, and he's the 5th. But you know how in robberies, perps mix and match. Like the press doesn't understand that. They want to, how many were there? You don't know how many were there? Well, dude, they sometimes 3 would work and do a guy, and then 2 would stand by, and then the other 2 would take their chance. Because we're hearing now that it was also like a gang initiation slashing robbery. They want to have fun, so let's slash and rob.
Yeah, the subways are bad, man. And that kid's probably got a haircut right now, by the way. If you're out there and you're still on the job, I'm telling you. Did you see that guy they caught in Florida? He was having a dinner at McDonald's, sitting on the curb with his girl. They rolled up on him, and the guy had dreadlocks in New York City. God bless these guys, man. These investigators, these detectives that caught that guy. The guy's sitting there. He got a shaved head now, and it's the guy. Well, Well, this is the guy. Well, he probably shaved his head now, but I was talking about the guy in Florida.
Hey, look, he's wearing a mask. He's following the rules of that, but isn't that funny? He's following the rules, wearing a mask, but he's doing robberies with the mask on. You know?
Well, yeah, it's like the guy with he's on the motorcycle, no helmet, but he's got a mask on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's unbelievable that these things. And look, people are coming back into the city. We were called by a restaurateur last week after the Times Square shooting. A restaurant in the theater district had 60 reservation cancellations after that shooting. That's a real deal. So all these people that want to give the money to social service programs, no, keep the people safe in the city that pay the bills. That's tourism. That's people that come from outside the city to spend their money in the theater district, in the restaurants. That's Wall Street. That's major businesses. If you don't keep those people safe, they're going to leave New York City. So stop talking about defunding the NYPD. First of all, you're not going to get elected to dog catcher if that's your policy. So, keep having that policy, because I'd like to see you be the dog catcher and never the mayor,
Well, if you're running for mayor, I got advice for you. Start practicing on your how you're going to hire police speech, how you're going to cut down on crime speech, how you're going to control the shootings speech. Those are the speeches you should work on, because those are the that's what's happening. That's what's going to happen to New York City residents when they go vote. They're going to be concerned about one thing. All they're going to be focused on is crime, especially if you own any property here, if you own a business here, if you want to stay here. You're going to vote for the person that's going to guarantee you they're going to be hard on crime again. So you better start practicing your speeches. They all will, because they're all full of shit.
Well, Mark, I don't know exactly when the Democratic nomination vote is. It's pretty soon. It's like 5 or 6 weeks. So you won't even see most of them. They'll be gone. They'll fade into the woodwork. They'll go back to their communist meetings on Friday nights, and and buy a Mao hat or something, because they don't have a chance. They have no chance.
I'm going to tell you something right now. When it does happen, when we do get a new mayor, whether it be a Democrat, if it's Eric Adams, or one of the Republican people, they're going to try their best to stay true to what their pledge was. And right now, your platform is getting tough on crime again, because the city's gotten out of hand. That's the only thing that a New York City resident is concerned about right now.
Right, but it's so disingenuous when you hear people that 2 weeks ago were talking about defunding them. All of a sudden, we get a crime spike, and they're like, "Oh no, I didn't mean that."
They're so stupid. They don't even know what they're saying right now. They're like, "Oh, why don't we just try getting rid of the police?"
Yeah,
and that's why I don't mind. Listen, if you want to be in Oregon and you want to let people do all the drugs they want, I'm fine with it, man. Give them the drugs. Give them the drugs. This way we could send all our drug addicts over there. You get convicted of a crime over here, you could go to prison, or we could send you to Oregon. One-way ticket.
Dr. Stephen Waschel, thank you so much for the 1999 super sticker. Angela Eng, thank you. Well, hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow night at Bordeaux.
Tomorrow night it's on.
We understand it's going to be like a rock, and he's getting lots of reservations. So it's going to be like a police reunion, I may even wear my rack. I might pull it out just to wear it to the restaurant one more time, to wear my rack,
Hey, you're going to wear it. What are you wearing tomorrow night? Speaking of that.
Probably a suit jacket.
You're going to wear a
khakis
suit?
Or something. No, I'm not wearing a suit jacket. I didn't say a suit. I was in the squad for 16 years. That's all I wore.
Wear that hat that you used to wear when you were a sergeant.
It's too hot out to wear that hat, though.
Bring that fisherman's hat, that with a Popeye Doyle hat. Bring that. What are you doing tomorrow night, Rob? You gonna come by?
I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'm working till 6:30, so maybe I can come by after.
Yeah, man, that would be great to have you.
That would be excellent.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
We're gonna have something. We're getting some amazing people coming on our show. You, including you. I mean, people are actually reaching out to us saying, "Oh, can I come on your show?" We're like, "Hey, get in line, buddy." No, just kidding. We're having fun with it. There's a lot of fun to this, but there's also a lot. Hopefully, we're helping support the police that are on the department now, and have them realize that not everyone hates them.
Absolutely.
We love the NYPD, and we feel for them when bad things happen and make their job that much harder.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was important to mention earlier, like the dentist who came out, you know, and like Mark was right to say, it's good you didn't mention his name, but yeah, I don't want to ruin his practice, you know. But there's good people out there, and they reach out, you know, when they can, and you know.
What's funny is I do my cop material, and you'd be surprised. You know, it's almost like unanimous. It's a positive. You know, I'm taking a chance when I start talking about it in the show. You know, and believe it or not, it's rare that I get heckled, let's say, or people don't, you know, they don't want to hear anything of it. You know, a lot of it's in my own head, worrying about it, but people are supportive. So it's only a small group of people that are screaming really, really, really loud right now, and their voice is about to get drowned out because we're in the middle of seeing what happens when they get their way, and it's not a good quality of life. You know, nobody wants to live like this, where there's shootings constantly going on in places where the people that are, you know, terrorizing your neighborhood are fearless right now. So it's time, you know, we got to take it back. We got to take the city back. This experiment didn't work. We took a chance with it. That's what I feel, man. I'm an optimist, like I said.
Yeah. And while we're talking about support, if you don't mind,
go ahead, Rob.
Mention one thing just before we run out of time, and that is, you know, one of the other things I'm involved with that I'd like to put out there is Brotherhood for the Fallen. To make a long story short, a great group of Chicago cops started it in 2010, and in 2015, let me back up, in 2013, beginning of 14, we met them at the Ramos and Lou funerals. And because they came out, you know, to New York for the funerals, and they kind of pitched the idea to us, and we became the second Brotherhood for the Fallen chapter. We now have 9 chapters. We're all legit 501c3 charities. So we have Chicago PD, us, NYPD. We have Suffolk County, New York, Aurora, Colorado, Dallas PD, Fort Worth PD, Boston, and we now have Arkansas and South Carolina. So it's a pretty simple premise. It's just like any of the other fraternal organizations, like the Emerald Society or whatever. Cops join, active cops join. The dues are a little higher than your ordinary organizations, because what we do is, our mission is, we make sure that we send members and active NYPD members, or, you know, for the other chapters, active Chicago cops, to every combat line of duty death funeral in the United States. So we cover the airfare, the hotel, rental. We send these cops to the funeral. They wear dress uniform, and while they're there, typically at the wake or at a private, you know, portion before the funeral, they give a card from us to the family with a check in it. So each chapter gives a check. If you put all the chapters together, I'm sure we're past 10,000 per funeral easy to each of these families. So, like I said, we're all 501c3s. We rely on our cop members. We have civilian members too, but we can't, you know, like retired guys always ask. But we you know, for our chapter, for NYPD, we're only sending active guys because we try to follow the department's rules on the uniform and all that stuff. But anyway, we get donations, we sell shirts and coins and stuff like that. So it's a great cause. And I would say since our beginning in mid 2015, we've probably given 300 grand to these families by now. And any other time we can do something, we find out, if we find out the family of a slain officer is coming to New York and they're looking for something to do, we'll pick them up, show them around, we'll take them to dinner, we'll get them whatever we can, you know. So it's a really worthy cause. And anyone who's interested can learn more at brotherhoodnyc.org. That's our website. And we have 3 or 4 cops in Texas right now for the 2 Concho County sheriff's deputies that were killed in Texas. And we have another group going out tomorrow to San Luis Obispo, California. And it's a tough business. And you know, I'll tell you, there's something for our active cops now. I'll tell you one thing that disappoints me is there's 36,000 members of the NYPD, and yet at Brotherhood we only have 400 or 500 members usually, which is a minuscule percentage of our active cops. And guys have second jobs, they have kids, they can't travel. But 2 things, you know, if you can join, please join for our active cops, because even if you can't travel now, the money helps. Right now, our chapter gives $1,250 per funeral. But could you imagine if half of our cops joined, we could be at, $7,000 per check, just my chapter. But we need the members. So, it's something that I hope will grow long after I'm gone. And I'll tell you, because we all know the sad truth of when an NYPD cop is killed. We're a big city and the job takes care of its own. But we've gone to funerals with like 10-person police departments where the cops were only making $18 an hour in the first place. Their benefits are not the same. And those families really need help. So we're happy to get out there and help, and we're proud to help. And the last thing I'll say about it is, for our active cops, with all that we deal with up here in New York and in the major cities across the country, we, people with cell phones in your face and spitting at you and stuff like that. When you put on your dress uniform and go to a funeral, in a rural area in the middle of nowhere or something like that, those people are so appreciative that you showed up. It really can make your day, month, year. It's an amazing feeling to go out and support. Just your presence at these funerals in faraway places really helps the colleagues, the family. They lose it when they see us. So I implore our cops to check it out and give it a try. And I appreciate you guys letting me get that out there.
Rob, thank you for all you do. And I mean, that's the real heroes of this country that do what you just described. And if we can help out in any little way, you can come on our show again if you want. But
I appreciate it.
Besides us, of course, enjoying doing the show and hopefully supporting the NYPD and police departments all over the world, we have fun doing this. We hope that we have some laughs, and we hope to, have cops listen and just say, "Oh, those guys are funny," or "I enjoy that show." And yeah. I hope we're doing that. Anyway, Mark, we're at an hour and 1 minute, so I think we should say our goodbyes.
Well, for those who aren't coming tomorrow night, goodbye. And for those who are coming tomorrow night, we look forward to hanging out with you and having some more fun. Look, Duty Ron just dropped $100 on us.
Oh my God!
Duty Ron's buying drinks tomorrow night.
He already did. He already did buy us drinks.
Thank you so much. You're a saint. God bless you. Thank you, Rob.
Actually, Mark, that $100 is for the Brotherhood of the Fallen.
Oh, okay, good.
Rob, if you could email me your
sure, thank you.
I'll send it to you. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, but Duty Ron, thank you so much. It's very well appreciated.
Thank you.
On behalf of Rob.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. I really appret it. I love the show.
Great. I hope we didn't put you on the spot too much.
Hey, if you guys ever get retirees to go out there, let me know.
Absolutely.
If you including dinner, is dinner included?
The only thing we cover the gas, the cars, everything else, but usually you're on your own for food. But you know how that goes when you're with cops from all around. Someone will pick up something.
Yeah.
That's right.
We'll find a place. Cops always find a place. All right. So thank you so much for joining us. Bill, close it out, man.
Police Off the Cuff fans, thank you so much for your support. We got some big things coming up. We're going to have a website put up. We're trying to really increase our footprint on YouTube, because that's where the big audience is. We get thousands of views on Facebook and Anchor and all that stuff, but we want to increase our footprint on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the bell, and view us on YouTube. Anyway, hopefully I'm going to see all you guys tomorrow night at Bordeaux. I'm really looking forward to it. From Mark DeMeo and Bill Cannon and Police Off the Cuff, Lieutenant Rob Corbett, good night, guys.
Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.